Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Success is a Choice podcasting network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and today we have a very, very special treat. We have Sage Steele joining us. Sage is a longtime ESPN personality from 2007 to 2023. She was the main SportsCenter lead anchor for a long time. You've seen her on lots of things like the Miss America contest, Miss America Pageant that she hosted, Scripps National Spelling Bee. She has been all over the place. Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. So we're really excited to have Sage on the show. Sage, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I forgot about all those cool non-sports moments that I did.
You're not supposed to forget about those, but I guess when you have so many of them, it all blends, it all just blends together.
Sometimes, and trust me, those actually really do stand out. I was kidding because they were so different. But I loved them like the spelling bee. People were like, that's not sports. Why is that on ESPN? I'm like, well, it's not a sport, but it's a competition. And it's a really good, riveting competition with these awesome kids. And then the Miss America pageant on ABC. I was like, you want me to do what? A beauty pageant? No, that's not what I do. And it was one of the best things I ever did. Chris Harrison from the Bachelor fame was my host. He's the one that brought me on. And it was so cool. And I think good, as it always is in anything you do, good to get outside of your box a little bit.
Yeah, well, we know that if you were actually a contestant on Miss America, your goal, your wish for the world would be world peace. We know that. Yeah. But what would your talent be?
My talent would probably be either baking, because I'm really good with food that's bad for you, or speaking Pig Latin. I don't know.
Wow.
Remember that? You're younger than me. In the 80s, that's what we did.
So what would your go-to baking? When you're like, man, I really need to impress somebody, or people invite you to the party or the family get-togethers, what are you baking?
Well, yeah, baking just 100% dessert chocolate. Okay, every year for several years, we would host a Christmas party. And I was mad because I had like 6 to 8 Christmas trees every year, just like my mother, big into Christmas. And my kids and my husband at the time didn't appreciate it. And I was like, this is Christmas. No one appreciates all my weeks of decorating. So I was like, I'm gonna have a party and it's gonna be all baked goods. And nobody else is allowed to bring anything because I needed that control, because they'd bring like Rice Krispie treats or something. I'm like, no, this is real baking. And I would take 2 days off of work and for 48 hours straight, almost no sleep, cook or bake 16 to 18 recipes, doubled from scratch on my own, and have this display for like 60, 70 people. I was obsessed, but it's all kinds of cakes but I mean like truffles and everything. I was so into it. And the reason why, and then I'll shut up. The reason why is because I just think people forget about the holidays and what they should mean, the real meaning of the holidays and Christmas in particular. And then people get stressed with work parties and all the things they have to do. And so my thing was, don't come, bring like a non-perishable food item. And then I would take my kids the next day to go to the local food pantry and donate all the goods people bought. But they came, they didn't have to stress, and they could pick out, and they made me feel like important because they were like, oh my God, you're such a good baker. I'm like, thanks.
Well, you sound like definitely the lady that needs to be invited to the neighborhood cookie exchange.
That's the only reason why I had friends back then, is because I baked well.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at these different events or these different things that you've done so many, the NBA Finals, Super Bowl, the Masters, SportsCenter, all these other non-sports related things. Is there one that stands out in your mind that was harder to prepare for, or more difficult, or maybe you were more nervous for?
Oh, the Masters for sure. No question. Listen, I'm a football, basketball girl, and that's how I grew up. I think that's how many of us my age demographic grew up. And I just wasn't, I'm an Army brat, lived all over the world. We didn't golf much. My dad did every once in a while, poorly, but there's a shot of my guy in the middle, Matt Berry, my co-host for the last 2.5 years. He is my favorite human there. And Andy North, who's just incredible. The best part about the Masters for me was the people, like those guys there. But I was very uncomfortable because it's something I'd never done and I'd never golfed. So you talk about out of your comfort zone. It's one thing to talk about football or basketball because I'd done that my whole life. But golf, and especially at the Masters, because you have to be careful. If you say fans and not patrons, like you're out. I mean, they might escort you out off the property. It's a very intimidating sport, I think. Your lingo matters. And unless you've played, it's hard to fully appreciate. I've been out on courses and played enough to comprehend how difficult it is. But for me, it was very much out of my comfort zone, which is why I forced myself to do it. And I think I did the last 7 Masters.
Do you golf yourself now?
No, I have a great bag of custom clubs and everything. Listen, with 3 kids and the work stuff in the last couple of years and just working in general for the past 28 years with kids as a mom, my oldest is now 21. There's just been no time, Jamie, and especially just with the demands of being on ESPN, which I loved. So my youngest is a senior in high school. She graduates next June. And that's one of the things on my bucket list. I need like once a week to get out there. I have a place in Florida. I'm there part-time and probably will be full-time once she graduates. And there's no excuse in Florida. Like you can go every day. And I can't wait because I feel like I have the length, the athleticism to maybe like senior LPGA tour. I don't know. Maybe there's hope.
That would be nice. So what would be your favorite sport to watch?
Football.
Okay. Your dad was a football player.
Yes.
The first Black varsity football player at Army.
Yes.
Amazing story. NFL Films a few years ago did a story on he and your family. Talk a little bit about growing up and being an Army brat, growing up in the family that you did, and how did you decide you wanted to be at ESPN? That was your dream job. Talk a little bit about growing up.
Gosh, I always say when people say where you're from, like I really don't know because I just didn't have one place. I mean, by the time I was 11, I lived in 4 different countries. I went to 2 different high schools. The second one, I had to move across the country my senior year from Colorado Springs to Carmel, Indiana, outside of Indianapolis. So family was everything because we didn't have a community that stayed consistent, Now the military community, this is a great picture of my dad when he was inducted in the Army Sports Hall of Fame, which I believe was 2012. And he went in for football and track. By the way, my dad, right there, he's shrunk since then with some surgeries, but he's a good 6'6" plus. So my brother on the right to my left, the tall one there, the taller one, he's almost 6'8". The other one's almost 6'5". So I come from a really, really tall athletic family and I'm the least athletic of them all. But honestly, I had the best upbringing and I'm so grateful for the bonding that took place when it was just us. So when you have to move to a place where they don't even speak English. And so my parents taught us from day one that we are everything and you've got to maintain that family bond because crap's going to come your way. But then who do you choose to go to? People who may or may not be there, friends in high school, or your family who's there for life. So, but again, my brothers played college basketball. And then my dad, of course, and he was actually drafted by the Detroit Lions. Even though back in 1970, you don't have a chance to go from a service academy to the NBA or the NFL. They drafted him anyway in the 17th round, the Detroit Lions, even though they knew he couldn't probably do it unless something crazy happened. So he was All-American, East-West Shrine Game. He was really awesome. And so I just wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be around him. I wanted to talk about it because my dad was my hero and he still is. And that's what bonded me with him from childhood, because I was probably more into talking sports and learning about sports than my brothers.
Did you play sports?
I ran track, and I was very average. I'm 5'11", the waist of some height. And actually, it's pretty. I look back and I know I have some regrets there, even though the journey has happened the way it was supposed to. But I didn't have the confidence. I was almost like afraid to succeed as I look back on it. Really sad. But my parents, when we lived in Belgium, got me into equestrian because I was super shy, like crazy, crazy, weirdly shy. And the doctor told my mom that animals, and quite often horses, are therapeutic for kids who are shy and can help them come out of their shell. So I started riding horses for that reason, and then continued, and I still ride now sometimes. And it was the equestrian hunter jumper. And that's a sport. People don't realize what that takes, the core strength and the legs and the upper body to control a 1,500-pound animal. So not traditional sports. Problem is, as an Army kid, like, we didn't have any money to even belong in that sport. So I didn't go very far because we were broke, but it was in me. And I'm super grateful for that sacrifice my parents made.
Well, you grew up with a little bit different perspective than a lot of people did, because you grew up in a mixed race. Your mother was white, your father was black, and I'm going to guess that has really impacted you and helped you see the world a little bit differently.
It has, but I didn't know it was different until I was told it was different. For me, it was just mom and dad. And also in the military, there are so many interracial couples and kids who looked like me, are all different, Asian and black, white and Asian. There were just all different races that were mixed, and it was beautiful. So I fit right in. It was much later when I realized, and especially, the last 10 years now that I'm not a kid, obviously. But it's sad for me to see how divisive it is, especially if you claim both sides and you're proud of your entire makeup, but for me, it was just normal. And my parents, in 2 weeks, will have been married 52 years, and so they've done something right. And it happens to be that their race certainly affected things, but it didn't affect their love and respect for each other. And that's what matters.
Well, it's sad sometimes that we have to put people in boxes, or, well, you check this box and this is the only box you can be in, because that really limits us. It limits our potential and what we're capable of doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a choice. And that's what I won't put up with anymore. Everybody else do what you want, but I won't do that. Like, I'm not going to be told how I need to identify based on your opinions. I'm sorry. Have you lived my life? No. And I don't want to influence yours at all either. I'm very proud to be the daughter of Mona and Gary Steele and the Irish, Italian, African American mix that I am. I'm my mother's personality, that's for sure. I didn't used to be, but somehow through this process of going after this crazy dream of being a sportscaster that I had when I was really this shy, meek kid, to now, which a lot has happened in the last couple of years, and just letting go of that fear of being liked by everybody. I think that's been the healthiest thing for me lately.
Well, not everybody gets to achieve their goals. The dreams that they have when they're a little kid or whatever, they get to achieve it. You've gotten to achieve it. Earlier, you mentioned Christmas. Well, my favorite holiday is March Madness. That's my absolute favorite holiday out there.
Wow.
Yes. Well, you achieved your goal during March Madness, my favorite holiday. But, you started off, you were kind of thrown in the deep end without a life preserver. What was that like, having to go on during March Madness for your first time behind the camera at ESPN?
The ESPN one. Yeah. Cause I was thinking back even to local TV and my first sports job, because I had a news job in South Bend, Indiana, WSBT, the CBS affiliate, right out of college. And then my first sports job was in Indianapolis. I had an intern there and they brought me back. And my very first day on the air doing actual sports was the 1997 Final Four in Indianapolis. And we were the CBS affiliate. So we were right there. I mean, I literally had never talked sports on the air in my life because they didn't have space for me up in South Bend. And top 25 market, Final Four. I mean, oh gosh. And it's the funny that since you say this, It's the first time I've made the correlation between 1997 and then 10 years later, 2007, when my first day on the air at ESPN was that first Thursday of the Final Four. I've never thought about that 10 years later, and it was just as terrible. I was so terrible both times. Wow.
Well, you obviously rebounded pretty well.
Did.
You overcame those jitters or those issues. How were you able to do that?
Oh, I don't know that there's one way that I can describe as far as overcoming it. It was many years, especially after the ESPN debut, which was, yeah, they'll even tell you, some of the people who actually are still there who were part of that, my first day. Yeah, I wasn't exactly set up to succeed. And I fell on my face. Obviously, I feel worse about it. They tell me, they're like, it was not as bad as you think. I'm like, yeah, it was. To this day, I get hives thinking about it. But I was embarrassed for a long time. And then I was immediately demoted, by the way. So talk about like kicking somebody when they're down. I had just started at ESPN, and then it was like, that wasn't good. You're out. You're not in the SportsCenter rotation. Oh, devastating. And then I just started to believe that I was not worthy. And so it actually took like 2 years for me to get my confidence back. And that just came from actually getting angry at myself for allowing the actions and opinions of others to affect how I felt about myself. And as the sole breadwinner in my house, when I was married, my husband was a stay-at-home dad, which was incredible. And like the biggest blessing, especially, when they were young, that was incredible. And so it all was on me. And when I started at ESPN, my kids were 11 months old, 2 and 4. And so I was trying to balance being a mom of 3 really young kids and this huge high pressure job that had been my dream that I was, not really wanted by some, not all. So I just had to get mad, and I realized like, it's up to you, and go out with a bang. Like I was sure that they weren't going to give me another contract, but something clicked in my head where it was like, you go hard and give it your all. And at least you can go out with your head held high and then go get a job back in local TV somewhere. And I guess I got mad enough, and I don't know that I'd ever been that mad in my life because I'm a real, just mild-mannered, really glass half full positive person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, this dream's going to be over and I'm going to be the laughing stock, So I think I look back and I wish I could put my finger on one thing, but I'm proud that I dug deep and didn't give in when people were kind of laughing at me. People in the building were kind of laughing at me, and that's okay. Whatever it takes. I'm grateful for those tough times because I did rebound and I was able to do more than I ever dreamt of.
Well, you see that all the time in sports. Some of the champions are some of the most successful people are the resilient ones. Even the UFC champions, it's not that they don't get hit. It's just that they're able to bounce back from getting hit. And even in the golf, you mentioned golf, the Masters, but in golf, they keep a bounce back statistic. And Tiger Woods is one of the greatest of all time at bouncing back from a tough hole. So that's a pretty important thing for life.
You're right. It is, but it is a choice, and we can sit there and mope and feel sorry for ourselves. And oh my God, the producer and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And okay, so what are you gonna do about it? And I think that's that military in me that really came back and kicked in too. Like there's some fight in you if you're an Army kid or a military brat. Because you have to learn to adapt no matter where you are. We'd move into these neighborhoods in Greece where we had neighbors on all sides of us that spoke Greek or French or Turkish and English. And as kids, you just want to play kickball. And so you figure out a way to communicate, but it might be uncomfortable, but you go figure it out. So I was super uncomfortable for my first several years at ESPN and then my last couple ones too. But you figure it out, and it's like, get over yourself. This is sometimes I struggle as a parent because I have a lot of empathy and I am definitely have that mother's heart, but I'm also like, get off your ass. Let's go. Like, no excuses. Yes, this happened and this sucks and this is wrong. But what do you choose to do with that now? And then it's on you.
Very good. Just like when whether you're not doing well at an interview or you struggle in a job that you're doing or you get hit by a golf ball.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, you got to get back up again. But for those of you that don't know, Sage, there was an errant tee shot by Jon Rahm, who's
Yeah.
supposedly the best player in the world. He's supposed to be, but I guess even they hit bad tee shots every once in a while.
Yeah, ask my 8 new teeth about how accurate he is. He's very accurate, apparently, right there. That was the craziest thing ever. And I have to tell you, like, whoa, we were way off in the left fairway, like way off. I was with Matt Berry and a security guy, like been on enough golf courses. I know where not to stand. We were just inside of the ropes, in some trees and, 280 yards away. And it was a direct shot through the trees somehow, like right into my mouth. Ooh, that's not a cute picture. Wow. So he apologized to me. I guess it was about 9 months later though. Funny thing is he didn't have to apologize. Like it was no one's fault. I mean, I didn't hear from him for long, but like it was not his fault. It's a freak thing. And as Matt Berry described it, if he tried to do it 10 million more times, it wouldn't have worked. So by the grace of God, and that's the only thing it could be, when it comes at you, I was just standing there and we were so far away, you couldn't hear him yell for it. It was loud enough you couldn't hear. And right here, it hit me so hard that it ricocheted all the way back into the middle of the fairway. They thought, because it was so loud, they thought that it hit the tree I was standing next to and that it ricocheted. And I was like, no, that was my mouth. So, but they didn't know. And they played the ball. They were like, wow, that was awesome luck. High five. And he was with Scotty Scheffler and Colin Morikawa. And I met Scotty. He's just incredible human. And they didn't know. Scotty told me they didn't know until they finished that third hole. And then it was like, did you hear what happened and who you hit? Honestly, though, and I'll be quiet about it because who cares now? I'm fine. But I realized very shortly after, even when I was on the ground trying to hide from the cameras because there was blood everywhere and teeth in my hands and it was a mess, I realized like the fact that it only hit me in my mouth, if it had hit me here, a couple inches higher in my cheekbone, my eye is gone or my temple and I'm dead. People die every year from that. So how did it only hit me in the mouth? I know I'm supposed to be here and I'm excited to continue to learn. I think I know what that is, but I'm excited to continue to live it, because that makes you, if nothing else, that makes you fearless and realize, all right, God, you have plans for me.
Well, you have been very inspirational to so many people, especially women. And you've done a lot for women's sports, whether it was ESPN, the Women's Summit that you were involved in for a lot of years or whatever that is. As you look to the future of women's sports, what are some things that we should be aware of, or what are some things that you're passionate about? I know we had Riley Gaines on, and I know Riley,
Yeah.
and I know that that's something that you're passionate about is women's sports. What are some things that we should be aware of or be thinking about as we move forward with just helping women's sports to be stronger?
Well, I think that what Riley's doing is so courageous. I mean, I can't imagine. I think she's 23, maybe 24 now. I can't imagine taking on the world as she has just by standing up and being true to herself. Listen, it took me till I was like, I don't know, I'm 50 now, like 46, 45 to be okay being myself, and it isn't still fully comfortable. So I admire her courage at such a young age, and she does it with grace. She's super smart, and her what she's fighting is real. And no matter what politicians or other activists say, it only affects, I think Gavin Newsom said, it only affects 1%. Okay. It's important and it's real. And I will continue to fight and do whatever I can with just my voice or however I'm asked to fight for what that is to keep women and girls sports, period. That's it. Biological women, period. Otherwise, what I want people to focus on is so positive. And I mean, watching like the NCAA women's basketball tournament this past spring, watching the WNBA playoffs and finals. My girl, one of my best friends in the world is Becky Hammond of the Las Vegas Aces, and what she's done and how she's done it with people fighting against her and them, and what she dealt with, in the NBA for those years, and the trailblazer that she is. Listen, when I hosted the ESPN Summit for all those years, it was incredible. And to see the growth that women's sports has undergone since then, since I started that in 2010,
Yep.
is incredible. The ratings are sky high, like I said, for the college hoops. And I love that so many people have embraced what women are doing. My thing goes back to the beginning of this question, where it's like, okay, we've come such a long way. Don't stop now. Don't let that, all the years of Title IX and Billie Jean King and all these people who've been fighting, and all of a sudden go silent for something that's really super freaking obvious as far as the transgender and sports topic. So I just don't want to go backwards, because I love how far we've come. And I love the conversations I've been able to have over the past 16 years at ESPN to uplift women and make sure that they feel seen and heard. And the conversations I'd have with my show producers, like, we need to get this highlight up higher. These women balled out. We've got to get this up higher. And they were willing. Like, there's so many good people at ESPN and many networks who are behind it, but we can't just go silent when it gets a little bit controversial on social media.
Well, you were fighting for many years for WNBA highlights for them to be more prevalent and get more exposure. And so I think we're starting to see that as well.
Yeah, it's fun to see. And again, I love these women. They're entertainers. They are a trip. They're funny. And they're also doing it, obviously it's different than the men. We're made physically different. That's science. There's no arguing that. But to me, I'm in awe. I mean, people try to argue and I can't even, like, it's not even worth my time. Stop. But what I do love is pointing out the fact that these women are doing it on the highest level while going through things that only women's bodies do, and many of them are now mothers as well. I'm in awe of those women in particular, because no matter what, it's a balance for any athlete, but it's next level for these women in any sport, not just basketball.
Well, and a lot of it is just having conversations about this and kind of understanding where people are coming from, but having honest and genuine conversations. You went on Bill Maher's show recently, and that was one of the things that you guys talked about is too many times we're canceling people or we're shutting people down just because we disagree with them on a certain issue, and we're not even having a conversation. And I think that we need more of that, instead of, Riley getting shut down or Sage being shut down or so-and-so being shut down for their views on this. Let's hear this out and let's see if there's another perspective.
Absolutely. That's why it was so cool to be on Bill's show. First of all, you go out to Los Angeles and lives in Beverly Hills, and his property is insane. And it was the most shocking, coolest experience I've had in a really, really long time. And here's something that's really cool. I'd never met him, never talked to him. He has a separate little studio on his property, and everybody's in there, producers, and then they leave and they say, listen, when we close the door, we're rolling. And so I say bye, and they roll the tape, and I'm just kind of walking around in there, and all of a sudden the door opens and he walks in. And that's the first time I've ever spoken to him or laid eyes on him. And that's how the show began. It's very authentic and genuine and raw at times in a really good way. And I loved what you said. We had a conversation, a civil, kind, funny, entertaining, emotional, passionate conversation. And God forbid people who think very differently on a lot of things can actually sit down. Like, that's been my whole thing is the C word that everybody's afraid of, to have a conversation. You can be a keyboard warrior and do all that you want on social media and all that. But like, why don't you actually talk to people? And if you have a question, you don't like what somebody says, ask them. What a concept. But Bill and I actually agree on almost everything, because he looks at the issues. And so despite what people say about Bill and they go, oh, now he's coming to the right. No, he's not. As he says, he's like, no, the left has just gone super crazy. And he's just, not about the woke, as he said. And we just had a great conversation and laughed and agreed literally on almost everything. I loved it because it was, people were shocked. It's like, wait, you did what? And he liked you? Again, I don't base my relationships or friendships on politics or opinions. I base them on the human being that you are. And I now have a new friend in Bill Maher. It's really cool.
Well, very cool. And what's cool is your future. You have almost a blank slate. You have left ESPN. There was some controversy there. We'll definitely put some that stuff in the show notes. And you've appeared on plenty of shows, talked about that in more detail, but you essentially wanted a chance to exercise your right to have free speech, and ESPN was not allowing that. but you have moved on. What's next for you? What's on the horizon?
To be able to speak freely like I am right now with you. It's strange. I've had to get used to it. I kind of, every time I speak with someone, on camera, I kind of get like, is someone going to come up and grab me from behind and let me and throttle me or fire me? Or I'm like, wait, no, it's over. Listen, I'm really, I always say this because it's very important for me that you and others know, anyone who asks to talk to me, like, I'm so sad about how it ended, heartbroken. But it's exactly the way it was supposed to be. And I just had tough decisions to make, like, do you stand up for what you believe in, or do you continue to remain silent because it's scary? And I just obviously chose the former, where you stand up for yourself. And and now I need to continue to have this voice, just to be true to myself. And it's not about me per se, Jamy, because what's happened through talking about whatever issue, whether it's, not political stuff, the topics that I've gotten in trouble for are actually, it's not politics. They've been turned into political topics, but it's not politics per se. Like, it's just not. But that's where we are today. But whether I talk about that or personal situations with my kids, or on my Instagram where I'm blowing up my daughter for her room that's a disaster, and if she doesn't clean it up, I'll ground her. Like, when I found that the more open I am just talking, the more people identify with that. And especially if it's some serious topics and the interracial thing, there's a lot. I've had thousands of messages, and even people coming up to me saying thank you, because I've been told that I have to choose too, and I don't want to. So I have benefited from opening up because others have come to me. And then I realized, okay, I do have this platform, whatever that looks like. Like, I got to use this. It's so important to use it. So yeah, sorry to answer your question. I don't know exactly what's next, but I know I need to just keep talking, because conversations bring people together. That's why I started as a sportscaster. That's why I had that dream, because I saw at a young age how on a Sunday afternoon, at MetLife Stadium or whichever stadium at Arrowhead in Kansas City, that 80,000 people come together. And it doesn't matter your race, your religion, your politics, none of it matters. For those 3 hours, you are all on the same team, and you're high-fiving people to your right and left that you've never seen before. And we bond over sports, and I want more of that, because I think that the more we talk, we can bond. Everybody has something that they're dealing with. Everybody's got crap, despite what it looks like on social media, what you think their life might be. And I just realized the more I speak up and speak out, that I'm helping myself to like get it out, and hopefully creating more of a community for people to feel comfortable speaking out without getting canceled, without getting threatened, without being hurt, without, most importantly, maybe without being disciplined or fired from their job. I wasn't fired, I was disciplined, and then I did something about that, but that fear is real. And I know it firsthand, and millions of others do too. And that's why I know now that I have to keep speaking out. And I'm figuring that part out now. It's kind of fun. I've had to get out of my box, Jamy, because I've worked for networks for 28 years, local, regional, national. And so now I'm like, what do I do? And I'm my own boss. Oh my goodness. It freaks me out. It freaks me out.
Well, it's great being your own boss. You can wake up when you want, wear what you want, say what you want.
I didn't get to wear this on national TV, and I cut off jean shorts on right here.
Now, you always picked out your own clothes, though, is the word on the street.
So we had a wardrobe consultant that we all met with about once a year. And she's awesome. And she's in New York, Ariel. I love, love, love her. And she did a great job. And she taught me a lot, because I never had anybody help me my whole career until I got to ESPN. And then, listen, there's not much money that they give you to dress yourself. So you are spending a lot of your own money. Like, it's crazy, because on SportsCenter, we're head to toe, full body, shoes, everything matters. And you, as a woman in particular, you have to have a lot of clothes, and you have to do it the right way. And so because we didn't get an opportunity to work with a stylist much, I did it on my own. And I actually, it's I would have bosses actually say, okay, thank you. Can you talk to some other women about kind of trying to be a little more professional on TV? I was like, nope, that's on you. I'm not touching that one. We all have our own style, but professionalism as a anchor, a host on a national network, teach his own. I'm proud of the way that and I used to say to my kids, or even when my husband and I was married, like with this dress, I'm like, okay, are you comfortable with me wearing this? Because as my husband, if you're If you're not, then there's my answer, because millions of people will see it. And I also just think for my daughters, and the example I was trying to set for them, to say, listen, you can be very comfortable and love what you're wearing and feel attractive and still be professional. Now, listen, my daughters are 17 and 21. I have a son in the middle who's 19. It is a constant battle with those girls and what they wear. And sometimes I'm like, okay, pick your battle, let it go, let it go. And I don't always succeed. There are many fights, but I am still trying.
Well, you are going to be great at whatever you do. I know over a year ago when the lawsuit began, I was disappointed because I thought Sage Steele was not going to be on ESPN anymore. And
Yeah.
and we got you for what, 15 or 16 months throughout that whole process. And so you were very professional during that time. But
Thank you. That was not easy, but I was able to separate my issue, my big time issue, who sues their company while they're still working there, much less on national TV. But I separated that from my love for the job, my love for my teammates and the producers, and most importantly, Matt Berry, my co-host. I love them. I miss them terribly. Right. So both can exist. Right.
Absolutely. And that's where you do your job and you talk about the why. What's your why? Doing it for the right reasons. And you know what? Integrity is not situational at the end of the day. And so we appreciate your inspiration. We appreciate just your professionalism through the years and your entertainment. You've entertained us as well.
Have I been funny? I was telling my kids I'm really funny. You don't realize how fun I am. I don't know if I was funny on TV, but maybe I can show that now, my annoying, goofy side.
Well, we look forward to watching you as you move forward. Go ahead and follow her if you aren't already. Instagram, Twitter, at Sage Steele. At Sage Steele. You can also check out her website, sagesteele.com. So until next time, please remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?